Of expressions, I have with me Dr. Subramanian Swamy, one of my favorite guests, and one who always leaves us more enlightened and entertained as well, I think, than we began. He's written a remarkable book. I'm not an expert in this area, but I can tell you that anyone who reads this will find very pragmatic advice, which can easily be followed by India's policymakers and politicians. So we'll talk a little about what it says and why it needs to be followed. It's Himalayan Challenge, India, China, and the Quest for Peace. And it's by someone who clearly has, and I love this picture. I hope you can see this. It's Dr. Swamy as a very young man in 1981 with Deng Xiaoping. We'll perhaps begin this conversation with that really historic meeting. But Dr. Swamy, welcome to Expressions for the New Indian Express. Thank you so much for being with us. And talk a little about your understanding of China, which I'm happy to note began with a challenge from your wife that you should learn Mandarin. So, yay! Well done for all the women in the Swamy household.
Yeah, actually, I was a mathematical economist in Harvard as a student for PhD.
Right.
And worked with two of the most famous economists, Nobel laureates, of course.
Yeah.
One is Simon Kuznets, and the other is Paul Samuelson.
Right.
Samuelson is regarded as the Einstein of economics.
Absolutely.
And I did a joint paper with Paul Samuelson, which only 5 students of his thousands and thousands of students, the only person I had the privilege of being his joint author. And so I was already very famous by the time I finished my PhD and in the field of economics as a mathematical economist. But I was seduced into studying China, so to speak, by 2 things. One was John Fairbank, whom I have thanked in
your book, yes, yeah.
Book, who's the doyen and dean and the father of China studies in the United States. And the entire Harvard Department for Chinese Studies was developed by him. I mean, he's regarded, like Aurobindo or Swami Vivekananda in our religion.
Okay.
So therefore, he came to know about me, and he tried to persuade me. He said, "We have no Indians who are studying China," and it was about 2 years after 1962. And he said, you are the right person for it. I hesitated. And I said, I'll think about it. In the meantime, the girl I was to marry later, she had just arrived to study for her degree in mathematics at Harvard. And so we went for a walk once on the famous Charles River. And there she said to me that, Chinese is a very hard language. I don't think you can learn it.
Right.
Out of the blue. So I didn't like that. And I don't like challenges anyway. So I went to class and became a star student. And I learned very fast. I learned Chinese.
Right.
And the Chinese know that their language is very, very difficult.
Right.
So I think in one of your programs, I recited the Chinese proverb.
Yeah.
Yang pupa, ti pupa, jopa, yang weitze hoisho, jonggoha. Which means don't fear the devil, don't fear the gods, but do fear the foreigner who can speak Chinese.
So
that's how it started.
Right.
That's how it started. And then, of course, I did a very path-breaking work on the economy of China.
Right.
Because knowing Chinese, I was able to go to the original sources.
Yeah.
And found the growth rate, as Mr. Amartya Sen and all were propagating 10% per year. India was only 3.5%.
Right.
I found that all these statistics was not compiled according to the UN standards for the GDP. So I applied the UN standards of GDP to both India and China, and I found that the growth rates were the same. Right. So between 1950 and 1980, the Chinese and the Indian growth rate was about the same. Right. It was a blast for me in the field of economics, particularly with the leftist hold.
Right.
And I was ostracized and so on. But although my book was published because of Professor Simon Kuznets' stature in the University of Chicago Press,
Right.
Harvard University Press declined to publish it because they said, this conclusion we find very hard to believe. So
Right.
and ultimately that prevailed because Deng Xiaoping needed my book to be able to get into the World Bank and the IMF and get
Right.
concessional loans on par with India, only if their per
Right.
capita incomes were the same. And my book came, that's how
Right.
it became famous. And to thank
Right.
me, chopping it right. So this is the background in how I got into China.
Right.
In 1977, Morarji Desai was prime minister, was
Right.
very fond of me.
Right.
And he was particularly fond because he asked me to be a minister of state for finance in the
Yeah.
his government. And I said, no, give me
Oh.
cabinet or nothing.
Right.
And he said, you're too young. I said, well, you're too old. So the average is okay. But he admired me for turning down a ministership at that
Right.
stage. I was about 35, 36.
Right.
So, but one day he told me, you're an expert on China. Can you tell me why these people don't want to talk to us even about the area they have grabbed from us?
Right.
So I said, you win their confidence. He said, what's the way to win the confidence? I said, you do something when they're down, they'll remember you forever.
Right.
And he says, what is it that I can do? I said, right now they're having problems with the Soviet Union.
Yeah.
And this is before it broke up into several countries.
Right.
Soviet Union, and Soviet Union is about to attack China on a property which the Russians claim is an island on a river on the borders of Siberia. And the Chinese claim it as their ancestral property. And say about to go to war, and the Russians are hoping that due to the agreement signed between Indira Gandhi and the Soviet leaders called the Indo-Soviet Treaty. Whenever either country is in trouble, the other country will allow its territory to be used for military purposes.
Right.
So the Russians wanted to come into India and then take their troops up to Tibet, from the belly, so to speak, where China was extremely vulnerable. So I told Modi, I told Morarji that you please inform them that you will not allow the Soviets, because the Indo-Soviet Treaty is Indira Gandhi's treaty, is not our treaty. So he said, you go and tell them. So I said, give me a letter, which he did. And the first politician to visit after 1962 on an official visit was myself.
Right.
And I was received by the top leaders. Deng Xiaoping meeting was later.
Yeah, 81.
81. And that was for a different purpose also. So there I informed them, they were so pleased to hear that Deng Xiaoping wanted to convey to me through his other senior ministers, one of the senior ministers, that he wanted to come to India immediately. Could I get an invitation, that sort of thing, in a very indirect language, which the Chinese always use. So I said that may not be possible. I asked Morarji when I'm coming back, and he said, no, it's too much change and too fast. It will not happen. So he came immediately, Deng Xiaoping, to Kathmandu, and there he held a press conference and said, there's a new government in India which is different from the Indira Gandhi government, and we are ready to talk to them about the disputed land between the two of us. That's how the thaw began.
Right.
In 1981, Deng Xiaoping invited me to meet him. And I wanted to meet him because I wanted Kailash Mansarovar to be opened for pilgrims from India, which everybody said the Communist government will never agree.
Yeah, but they did.
But, and I went there, and he said, yes, but on condition, you will go first. I said, why? He said, because I want you to suffer. How much problems we have had to clean up the place and make a road and so on. You see, I want you to see. And so I became the first thing. He also put a condition which I have not, think, put in the book, if I recall correctly, that he said only Hindus will be allowed. I don't want any tourists,
Right.
some Christians and Muslims coming
Right.
and taking photos.
Right.
People who have reverence
Right.
for a communist to say about
To say
reverence.
that, that's really interesting, huh?
So
Yeah.
I wasn't sure that Mrs. Gandhi would agree. She had come to power by then.
Right.
When I came back, I told Mrs. Gandhi that this is a condition. And she said, she was silent for about maybe 30 seconds, 40 seconds. Then he said, you will not tell anyone this condition? I said, no, I won't tell anyone.
Hmm.
Then he said, go ahead and promise them that only
Okay.
Hindus will be allowed to go.
Right. Because she didn't want to be seen as,
That's right. Her
yeah,
secular
yeah,
credentials.
secular. But she was a practicing Hindu. She was a very
Oh,
proud
Pakka
Hindu.
Hindu. Yeah, she was Pakka Hindu. No question about it. She had
Absolutely.
Rudraksh Mala all the time.
Absolutely. And I think after Sanjay Gandhi's death, she became even more
Yeah,
spiritual.
much more. Yeah. And I also, after all the hostility of the previous 10 years,
Yeah.
I became a good friend towards the end because
Right.
of Rajiv Gandhi. He
Right.
removed road. Rajiv Gandhi took to liking to me. He was sitting next to me in Lok Sabha.
Huh.
And they will just go on asking me this question, that question. He didn't know anything, including Article 370. And I convinced him it's a bad thing. I said, you get up and speak against it.
Huh.
So he said, oh, no, I will not speak against it because, I think, then I explained to him. He said, okay, I'll speak against it, but I'll tell my mommy first.
Right.
So therefore, he asked his mother, and next day he came and said, my mother said, don't get it.
Yeah.
He was going to speak in favor. But he opened the Ram Temple Mandir.
Yeah, but of course, there's so many questions about it, Dr. Swamy. He tended to say that it was done by Arun Nehru and not him, and he was not aware. Do you believe that?
I mean, about the
Opening of the locks, yeah.
Bofors thing. Bofors.
Opening of the locks in the Ram Mandir.
No, Arun Nehru had nothing.
Nothing to do with it. It's
Absolutely.
very much his decision.
He was for it.
Yeah.
But the excuse he gave to his senior party colleagues is that this Muslim personal law case, no?
Yeah,
Banu case.
Shabanu, yeah.
Shabanu case. And created tremendous anti-feeling amongst the Hindus.
Right.
So he wanted to do something which would remove.
Balance it. Yeah.
So he gave, because I know Virendra, what is his name? The chief minister's name is of the Congress party in UP. He himself told me
Right.
that we did it because we wanted to subdue that anti-Hindu feeling.
Right.
So it was done for that. No, Arun Nehru had nothing to do. He was a gas bag.
But also he had a historic meeting. We'll talk a little about your meeting with Deng. But Rajiv had a historic meeting with Deng as well.
Yeah.
That famous
in 88.
Yes.
And by the way, he asked me to accompany him.
Right. Did you?
And I'll tell you what happened. 2 days before he was to depart, everything was fake. People, all the officials came and they said this protocol, that protocol. Then 2 days before, he called me up and said, Swamy, I don't think I take you in this meeting. I said, it's up to you, because you wanted it. I guess agreed. It's up to you. No, next meeting we'll go together. Later on, I found that MJ Akbar was a Congress MP at that time.
Yeah, from Bihar.
And the word had got around that Swamy is accompanying Rajiv Gandhi.
Right.
So he went to Rajiv Gandhi and said, what are you doing? The moment he lands, the Chinese will only look at him, not at you. You look terrible.
Right.
So that is what killed it. Then I confronted MJ Akbar and asked him, did you do this? He said, yes, he's my leader and you will, you're nothing to do with our party and you would have outclassed him.
Right.
I had to do it in the interest of the party. All right.
But you remain good friends with MJ, so it's okay.
Yeah. Why should I take it? I know, frankly, it was a relief, to go and supposing I have to, stand behind. It's like being a Duke of Edinburgh to Queen Elizabeth.
I see you've been watching The Crown.
Yeah, I have been watching.
Yeah, it looks like
Just finished.
Yeah. Fantastic. This season has been really quite fantastic. So, talk a little about the 81 meeting with Deng Xiaoping. It
Yeah.
was really quite historic, wasn't it?
Yes, because that is the first time he said,
Hmm.
I will send my foreign minister to India
Right.
after 1962 for the first time. And we will put aside the border issue.
Hmm.
We'll discuss it
Right.
very quietly.
Right.
And let's collaborate on other things.
Right.
And that's where it's all started.
Right.
And of course, he told me, take Arunachal and give us Aksai Chin. I said, that can't be done like that.
Yeah.
By the way, Mrs. Gandhi wanted, when I was leaving, she came to know. So Narasimha Rao was foreign minister. He asked me again, will you meet Mrs. Gandhi? I said, yes.
Yeah.
So she told me, can you tell the Mr. Tan Xiaoping when you meet him that Assam students are in revolt and they're about to cross into China and get weapons and come.
Right.
Please stop them.
Right.
Please tell the Chinese to not allow them.
Right.
I said, I don't know whether I should be saying it, but since you have asked me, I will certainly put it to him. I put it to him. I didn't include it in the book because it had to be kept secret.
Right.
But I can tell you, and I don't mind it becoming in public domain, but I didn't want to put in my book. So I raised this issue. So he laughed. He said, you are in the opposition
Hmm.
and you are pleading for Mrs. Gandhi who tried to put you all people in jail.
Yeah.
So I said, well, no, she's a bit changed woman and so on. He said, oh, she recognized that horrible Cambodian Heng Semerin,
Right.
Russian stooge and so
Right.
on. After that, he said, all right, we will not allow anyone to come, but we'll catch them and hand them over to your police in the border.
Hmm.
So I said, and then he added, do you have police at all? I found that a very insulting question. I said, why? Of course. He said, then why should they cross? If you obviously don't have good enough police. You should have your own strength to stop these people. But I'll do it. And even till today, not a single Assam rebel has managed to go to China and bring them.
Okay. Fascinating.
So this is something which which I have not mentioned, but so that is the Chinese character.
Right.
They like you, they'll go any length to accommodate.
Right. Right.
They become suspicious of you. They will be the most diabolical set of people. This is Chinese character.
Right. And you've put that across really well in the book as well. And, you've given three options. I'll just read them out.
Yes.
And, you've said we can have a compact with China in the 21st century.
Yes.
We can participate in projects to contain China. And we can be part of a global time, or we could be part of a global triumvirate of India, US, China. And you've tended to, and at the end of the book, you have really argued for a new look at China, a new sort of cooperation with China. Yes. So how do we come to this point? Because at the moment, as you've said throughout the book, we suffer from this horrible ambivalence,
Yes.
Towards China. So how do we come to this point where we can actually now cooperate with China?
Well, see, today the picture is complicated by the fact that the Chinese, during the UPA rule, came across the line of actual control, which is a mutually agreed line.
Right.
In Narasimha Rao's period, it was decided.
Right.
Came across, and over a period of 5-6 years, I think 2006 to 2013, about 7 years, they occupied anywhere between 2,000 square kilometers and 8,000 square kilometers. And they occupied that part, which is called Depsang, and which is very close to the Karakoram Pass. So it's a strategic area.
Right.
So over the years, they built, during the UPA period, they built these controlments, everything. So they are today in possession of Depsang.
Right.
And some parts of that lake, Pannong Lake.
Right.
Now, Modi and Xi Jinping have had 18 meetings.
Yes.
And I've been asking publicly and privately too, what did you know this or not?
Right.
That during the UPA period, the Chinese had already occupied 2,000 to 8,000 square kilometers.
Right.
And did you raise it with Xi Jinping?
Right.
All I've got is silence.
Right.
Now, even today, Modi doesn't name China
Right.
anywhere.
Right.
Aggressors, nothing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Only Rajnath has picked up nerve to say it.
Yeah.
Am I taunting him once or twice in my meetings with him? So I think this is a crucial thing for Chinese psychology.
Right.
Are you going to buckle?
Right.
If you're going to buckle, then you are contemptuous.
Right.
You will never be able to deal with them again.
Right.
So my prescription is limit your attention to China only to the border question.
Right.
They've crossed the border, they must get back.
Right.
Don't bother about Tibet.
Right.
And I've argued Tibet was never with you. There
Yeah.
were, even the Dalai Lama, the present Dalai Lama, you can go and ask him.
Yeah.
He had to be approved by the Beijing government in 1940, February 22nd, 1940.
Right.
Chiang Kai-shek's government went and put a ring on his finger.
Right.
That all Dalai Lamas got that approval from Beijing. So the suzerainty part had been all through Karnataka. The only thing that Jawaharlal Nehru did was he declared it to be sovereignty.
Sovereign, yeah.
Okay, and finished off their autonomy.
Yeah.
And Vajpayee went one step forward and allowed the partition of Tibet. Tibet is now three-fourths has been merged with neighboring states of Tibet.
Right.
And only 1/4 remains. So now, what is the point in raising Tibet? What is the point in raising Taiwan? What is the point in raising Hong Kong? You got a problem. The Chinese have forcibly occupied, clandestinely occupied your territory. Prove it to them that as far as this border is concerned, we are in an advantageous position, you are in a disadvantaged position. Thrash them, kick them out if they don't go the. Once you do that, it will be easier to have a compact with China after a period of healing.
And sir, you've also made the point that the PLA is vastly overestimated.
Yeah,
it is not as, yeah.
This terrain is concerned there. Galwan is an example.
Yes.
Our chaps climbed up mountains barehanded. They killed 3 times the number they killed of ours.
Right.
They were sitting on top.
Right.
And Rajnath picked up nerve and told Naravane, who's one of our finest commander-in-chiefs, that, if you're going to deal with China, we must have something of China which they want. So our troops did cross LAC and captured the heights in the Pangong Lake, overlooking the Chinese PLA cantonment. And the Chinese could do nothing about it. So we are definitely far superior, and this is not only now. In 1967, Nathula Pass in Sikkim, we thrashed the Chinese. In Sumdungurongcho Valley of Arunachal, in 1987, we thrashed the Chinese. I asked Rajiv Gandhi at that time, why don't you make it public? He said, no, it'll just provoke them. But it gives us self-confidence in the government.
Right.
But we did it. Yeah. I will tell you that China cannot ever challenge India on the border areas because of the logistics. They have a long supply route, which can be bombed anytime, right through Tibet, which is a hostile territory. So I think at one stage, we have to tell the whole world, when it comes to military, we know how to defend ourselves. How can you be a defender of all our neighbors if you can't defend yourself?
Right. We have this problem of not being the first aggressor. No, we've always.
What do you mean? They are the aggressor. They occupied your territory.
Right. So we have to say
so we are defenders.
Yeah. Right.
This shyness that the Prime Minister, is showing to name the Chinese as aggressors and order the army go and evict them. You want to take 1 year, you want to take 2 years to prepare. That's another matter.
Right.
But this is our objective. Tell the Chinese, we'll evict you. if
Yeah.
you don't go yourself. That is the only way to win respect in China and the world.
And the world.
You are on par with China.
Right. I mean, look at the way Mrs. Gandhi planned the Bangladesh
Yeah.
offensive. She took her time and she
Yeah.
told the whole world what
Yeah.
she was going to do.
Yeah.
So you're saying let's have something similar with China. Why not?
Yeah. But Mrs. Gandhi missed the opportunity to break up Pakistan.
That's true. That's true. And you mentioned that as well, the Shimla. That was a complete giveaway by the bureaucrats,
I think more it was Sonia Gandhi and a Pakistani woman called Farida Ataullah.
Really?
Uh,
What is the story there?
Well, I mean, they were sitting in one Safdarjung Road and telephoning Mrs. Gandhi, and Sonia was threatening Indira Gandhi that she will leave with the children if you don't settle with Pakistan.
God, the book on the Gandhis remains to be written by you. I hope you're going to write it. It's a love, hate, love. It's the most complicated relationship, I think. Even more complicated than the one you had with Jayalalitha, which is saying a lot.
Oh yeah, Jay is also up and down, up and down. And ultimately,
These are stories that you have to write. But sir, I think that's one part. You've said that we have to do this, and we are vastly overestimating the PLA. We also have to get our GDP in order, because we have to look them in the eye and talk about India as a powerful economy. You can't be poor and proud. No, you have to be rich and proud.
I tell you, during the 1950s, 60s, 70s.
Yeah, we were at par, no?
No. We were in par with China because China was following the communist model
Right.
of the economy.
Yeah.
And we were following the Soviet plans. Okay, 3.5% per year is the growth rate. At those days, I got into the bad books of Mr. Amartya Sen and all that by saying that if we have market economy, we'll grow at 10% per year, which ultimately we did it, you see, when Narasimha Rao came. Now, the question is, Indian economy can grow much faster than the Chinese economy if you have the correct economic policies.
Yeah.
But if your prime minister doesn't know any economics, which is proved by the fact he said he will double GDP to $5 trillion in 5 years, which means a 14.4% per year growth rate. How is that possible?
Not possible.
Please tell me what is your calculus for saying 14.4? You are not even able to get 3%. The last time before Corona, your last quarter, you only got 3% growth rate, lower than what Jawaharlal Nehru and Indira Gandhi got. See?
Right.
So I think the main problem with our country is not the economic potential, but bad economic policies.
Yes.
Failed economic policies.
Yeah.
And it's all, it's all scattered, one project one day, another slogan another day. Macroeconomics is an extraordinarily complicated subject. It needs a mathematical mind to understand it. And that's why Narasimha Rao forced me to, he wanted me to join Congress. I said, I will never join Congress.
Right.
Then he gave me a cabinet rank position, despite my being not an ally of Congress.
Yeah.
For the WTO matters, and I attended cabinet meetings. And whatever, as the Sitapati biography says, Narasimha Rao's first job after getting invited to form the government is come to my place and pick up my blueprints, which I prepared during Chandrasekhar's period, and implement it. So I think Modi doesn't want to listen to me at all. I mean, there's nothing that I have suggested to him he does, because he is self-confident that he knows it all, and he has people who don't have the nerve to stand up to him and tell him, no, this can't be done this way. But they also go on repeating $5 trillion, $5 trillion. When I asked the economic advisor, how can you say this is such rubbish? He said, well, either I lose my job or I repeat this rubbish.
Yeah. Is there no way out? I mean, do you feel that they will not see the light at all?
In the economy?
Yes.
I don't think, there has to be a crash, and then everybody will.
Are we headed for one?
Huh?
Are we headed for one?
Oh, yeah. We have been heading since 2016, slowly, and it reached now. Corona is an excuse.
Yeah.
But we are in a royal mess right now.
Right.
To turn around, till 2024, which is the year of the election, I don't think we're going to be able to turn it around with this kind of policy.
Hmm.
See, even today, they don't even know what is the problem. It is demand problem, supply problem.
Supply
What is the
problem.
problem?
Yeah, they can't tell.
All these stimulus packages are only on bank loans being written off. This is not the way. You
Hmm.
put people money in the hands of the people.
Right.
Like Trump is saying,
Exactly.
$2,000.
Yeah.
You put people. That's demand. You see,
Yeah.
you build roads
Right.
because they print money
Yeah.
and pay them wages.
Right.
You made the migrant laborers into a miserable lot. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm very sad to see all that is happening.
Right.
And
Yeah.
where you should not show too much rigidity, we are showing rigidity. Where we should show flexibility, This tax, for example, is a mess in India.
Hmm.
Both GST and this income tax.
Income tax. Yeah.
Income tax should be abolished.
Hmm.
You get the amount you are getting from income tax, you get more than that by auctioning 2G spectrum, 3G spectrum,
Yeah,
4G spectrum.
exactly. So what you need to look China in the eye is, you're saying you need to develop your economy at a rate that matches them, or right now 10% because you need to catch up with them. And two, you need to show them that you are not going to take their aggression lightly, and you need to
In the
defend your
reverse
territory.
order.
Yes.
In the
Okay. The
reverse order.
reverse order. Reverse order. Right.
That is, you
And
do first, you knock them out.
knock them out, and then meanwhile you develop your economy and you fix your economy.
Yeah.
What about the rest of the world? How do we approach the rest of the world? You've also talked about our sort of historical mistake in not sending troops to Afghanistan.
Yes.
And not filling that vacuum. That again is quite a fascinating argument.
Yeah.
Could you explain that as
Yeah, you see, Karzai, their president for the longest period, after the Taliban was eliminated,
Yes.
he had come to India. I was invited to a dinner with him, and then he invited me for tea also in Delhi. And he was of the view that the Americans should not come anywhere in this region.
Right.
Indians are welcome.
Right.
And we are, on the economic side, we are there in...
We are helping them in many ways.
Yeah, but that's not enough.
Right.
They want security.
Yeah.
Security always comes first.
Right.
And we can beat the hell of the Taliban. And Taliban, you see, is going, if they ever get Afghanistan, then Pakistan, Afghanistan become one, and then India is in trouble.
Right.
And so I have also recommended that we should try to make Baluchistan and Pakhtunistan and Sindh and into independent countries.
Right.
They are ready for it.
Right.
Break up Pakistan, take over Afghanistan, not take it over, but help them to stand on their own feet. These are things that we have to do. You can't just sit around and say the whole world should admire me for my, for my abstinence and whatever. Nobody cares for you.
Yeah.
With the Americans, you can only deal with them if you give them something and take something.
Right.
If you send troops to Afghanistan and say, okay, you send your troops back home, they'll open the warehouses of their armory and say, take what you want.
Exactly.
That's the American psychology. Well, we give them lectures, we give them this thing, we are non-aligned. When the Americans wanted an agreement and a treaty, we told them, no, we are a non-aligned nation. Well, non-aligned to what? So this is the problem. We just don't know how to deal with countries according to their psychology. And then the media, strategic alliance happened. Never Modi declared the world leader. And people are not telling him the truth.
World leader without a seat in the UN Security Council is not a world leader.
Every day, Obama has promised, this man has promised. They are nonsense. They're not going to do it. Till you are a power position, you see. And I personally think that I put an incident in the book that Modi wanted me to become president of the BRICS Bank. Yeah,
that's right.
I refused. I said, why should I go? I left Harvard to come to India. Why should I now go out of India? Which is probably what he wanted me to do.
He doesn't know the power of technology. It doesn't matter where they send you, Dr. Swamy, you will be right here.
No, but I just didn't want to go.
Why should
you? And the Chinese, being my friends, they they informed me, we heard that your government is nominating you. We are all welcome you as a friend, but this is not going to go anywhere.
So good.
So I told Amit Shah, who invited me to, make a phone call to the PM in his house. I said, I will not make you. Please tell him I will not accept, because the Chinese are going to turn against you.
Right.
So he says, how do you say that? I said, this is what they have told me. He said, oh, they are jealous of his international reputation. I said, that's not the way the Chinese work.
Right.
And when they will strike, I can't tell.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what happened. After 18 meetings, there no communication, nothing. They give you start fighting with you in Galwan Valley.
Right. So you can't obviously win them over by sitting with them on a swing and showing them Sabarmati Ashram. That's not the way to win them over. You have to fight their fight, right?
Yeah. And they have to have confidence.
Yeah.
That if you are going to be a friend, you will stand with them when they are in real difficulty.
Right.
Which is what Moraji did in that island matter and the
so if you want to be friends with them, you have to also win their trust.
That's
Two things. So once you're equal with them, you can then be friends.
Yes. Yeah. And if you can show that you can hurt them also, like in this, they have a lot to lose if we defeat them and make them go by, evict them across the line of
course.
control.
I mean, China, world power, being defeated on the border will be a huge embarrassment for them.
That's right.
Right.
Correct.
So why do we not have a self-confidence in the right things? Why do we have this sort of confidence in the wrong things?
See, Hanuman did know his strength. So he had to be constantly told, you can do this. You can jump across and go to Sri Lanka from Rameshwaram, But Hanuman himself didn't know his own strength.
Right.
So that is the problem with the Indian leadership. They have to be told, but who's going to tell them?
Yeah, the media will not.
The media's collapsed.
Yeah, and bureaucrats will obviously not want
to. Bureaucrats will find out your mood first and then say exactly what you want to hear.
We'll also come to Ram Setu since you mentioned Hanuman, but we'll just come to that a little later.
Yeah.
But just on, going back to our relations with let's discuss the US, then Russia, and then Israel. Israel is somewhere, I think at least we've done something that's a little right. At least now we acknowledge that we are friends with them, which we should have.
That was done by Narasimha
Rao. Yes, I'm talking about over a period of time.
Yeah.
So let's talk about these three relationships and perhaps US post Trump.
Yeah. As far as Israel is concerned, it's we have nothing that can make us quarrel unless our stupidity.
Yeah.
We have no border problem. We have no religious problem.
Right.
The Jews and the Hindus have respect for each other for centuries. Jews came as refugees to India. We looked after them.
Yeah.
They themselves say that the only place in the world where there was no anti-Semitism was in India.
Right.
So there's nothing that can spoil the relationship.
Right.
But they are a country of population maybe 10, 12, 15 million. And they are surrounded by 120 million Arabs.
Yes.
You see? So India must work out some defense treaty with them.
Right.
That you will give us your electronics and we will give you our manpower if you ever need it.
Right.
You seem to be doing all right.
Oh, yeah.
Your Mossad is a killer thing.
Yeah.
And now, thanks to Trump, they are getting diplomatic relations in all the Sunni countries, you see. Yeah. So even Turkey is saying that, no, we value our friendship with Israel. So I think the most important thing they need is this fallback position.
Right.
If one day the Arabs unite and come, India will be there with its manpower to support us.
But we still have a little ambivalence because of, the fallback, the blowback on the Muslim population. Do we
What
have that?
now Muslim countries are all having diplomatic relations.
With, yeah, exactly.
The Indian Muslims never. It was the Soviet Union's influence,
Right.
which said that this is a stooge country of the United States, so it will mean a passport to, if you make good relations with Israel, that means United States is also going to be involved in it.
Okay. Right.
So the Muslims was an excuse used by Mrs. Gandhi.
Right.
Because I went in 1982 to the invitation of the then Prime Minister Menachem Begin to Israel. And Mrs. Gandhi on the floor of Parliament asked me, please don't go, the world will think, will misunderstanding us. We have a long historic relations with the Arabs and so on. I said, that
Right.
you have, I don't have. I believe in it. No, your going will be taken as I am supporting you. I said, well, if you can support me, that's very good. But I will not go away. No, there's been a massacre in Shatila, in Lebanon. How will we defend it? All this in Parliament records. And I said, well, there's a massacre in Assam. Now Kali or something. I don't know. Forget what it is.
Yeah.
There was none.
Yeah.
Well, there's a huge massacre, and the Congress was blamed.
Yeah.
And Nelly massacre.
Yes.
And therefore, I said, there is not a massacre going on.
Right.
I mean, I will not to go to any country if there's a massacre.
Right.
So I went. So that gesture, the Jews had never forgotten. Anyway, I had Jewish professors and so on, and they were anyway singing my praise, because even in America, I was all for Israel. So Israel is a country which should be embraced,
right,
because it is unconditional friendship.
So not this sort of coy, again, this coyness that we have.
Just anything of Israel we should support.
Right.
And they will support us also. They have helped us so much on intelligence and dealing with terrorism. As far as the Americans are concerned, they are purely commercial, give and take. The moment you take from an American and not give, then they think you're a rascal. And if you give and not take, then they think you're stupid. And both ways we lose. So you negotiate. I'll do this for you. You do this for you. I'll do Afghanistan for you. You give me all your weapons.
Right.
So then you have to also see that you don't befriend American enemies like Russia.
Right.
See, we bought S-400.
Right.
The Americans have decided they'll never give you anything, because S-400 is produced with Chinese electronics. And if the Americans give you their advanced weapons, then the Russians and the Chinese will come and duplicate it.
Right.
So they've written you off. They haven't delivered anything of worthwhile since 2018.
Right.
So Americans, you see, if you want the Americans on your side, you pick up those issues which the Americans are now fed up with and fill the gap.
Right.
And they'll assist you.
Right.
And they're very practical people. When they make friends on a give and take basis, they are very good friends.
Right.
They'll go the extra mile.
You're not a great fan of Russia.
Russia is a stooge country. I never was, because Soviet Union is still in my mind. They targeted me. They ensured that I was declared a CIA agent, and I was deprived of my professorship by Mr. Amates. And after inviting me to come and join Delhi University, upon arrival, he says, no, your ideology is not right. He said, but you have written me a letter inviting me to join. And then in IIT, I became a professor thanks to Manmohan Singh, who was the chairman of the selection committee. And within 1 year, Mrs. Gandhi and all these leftist types, Nurul Hassan and all, they got me removed dismissed from IIT.
But you won that case, so it's...
I won that case and got my back salary at 8%.
Well done. But you say that Russia is not a trusted friend, not a friend to be trusted.
Russia is nobody today. It's a stooge of the Chinese. It's a junior partner. To use a more polite language, they're a junior partner of China. The world only has 3 countries. 2, one is potential, that is us. But the other 2 is America and China.
Right.
And the Americans and Chinese are practical people. They will have a deal. They may shout at each other, scream at each other, but they'll have a deal.
Right.
And the Americans have a knee-jerk hatred for Russia, and the
Right.
Chinese will manage the Russians.
Right.
So we have this choice. We have good relations with China and deal with America on a give and take
On a
basis.
give and take basis.
Yeah.
Just to go back a little to your introduction, where you talk actually of the historic relationship we've had with China and the Sanskritization and
Yes.
the cultural relationship we've had,
Yes.
which again has not really been explored or
Yes, right.
So, can we talk a little about that? It's so
Yes.
fascinating.
You go to Dunghan caves in Xinjiang.
Right.
Identical replication of Ajanta and Ellora there.
Right.
You go to Fujian province, you'll see Shiva's church actually.
Right.
You go to Shaolin, there's a board there.
Yeah.
Here came a monk from India,
Yeah.
Bodhidharma,
Right.
taught us what is now called karate. It's
Yeah.
called wushu in Chinese,
Yeah.
which in Chinese characters, when you read in Japanese, it becomes karate.
Right.
So we were their teachers.
Right.
This has been documented by a Chinese president of the Beijing University, Hu Shi.
Right.
Came to Harvard in 1936 and delivered the tricentennial year celebrations of Harvard, and delivered picture topic was Indianization of China.
Right.
But we Indians don't know,
Right.
because the British made us look like monkeys.
Right.
See, that is these are the things we have to. The Chinese and Indians had relations from 700 BC till 1962, not one single conflict.
Right.
Take Europe, every year, I would say every month,
Yeah.
they were at war with each other.
Right.
Till only after World War II, this has been reduced. But even there, we have had this case of Yugoslavia and Serbia.
Yeah,
And all these
they've
places.
all broken up. Yeah, ethnic wars. So this civilizational pact that we've had, we've not been able to capitalize on it, either we or China. How do we go about repairing that? Is it possible?
It is possible, but then you must give you an example from Modi again.
Yeah.
He had this first meeting on a Jula.
Yeah.
What did he do next? He went to Japan and then criticized China for trying to grab the islands there.
Right.
That the Chinese...
They don't like that.
Not only that, they said, okay, you want duplicity, then we'll give you 10 times more duplicity.
We are the kings of duplicity.
Yeah, that's right.
They really can be. They're very sharp enemies, but
Yeah. And very, very good friends. Look how friendly they are with Pakistan.
Yeah.
Even when Pakistan is collapsing, maybe they'll take over Pakistan.
Yeah, absolutely. But, where does India's relationship with Pakistan stand in all this? Where it doesn't really matter now, does it?
No, Pakistan, it doesn't matter. It should be broken up into 4 countries. We broke it into 2. And that's better than 1.
Yeah.
Because Bangladesh is still okay.
Yeah.
They do care for what we think and all. And it's a stable country. Pakistan is 4 countries. Baluchi, Pakhtuni, Sindh, and West Pakistan.
Are we doing enough through our covert operations there? No.
Nothing worth reporting. We have people there.
But we could do a lot more.
Oh, of course, we should do it openly.
Yeah.
You just open a human rights center for the Baluchis in Delhi.
Yeah.
The Americans have opened it in New York.
Yeah.
But we are afraid to open it in India.
Yeah.
There's so many Baluchis here.
That's right.
You see. And the Chinese are scared of the Baluchi Liberation Army.
Right.
Now they've taken over that Gwadar port completely from Pakistan.
Right.
Because they say we can't trust you to protect us.
Let's end by talking about Ram Setu. I think that's something that you've been fighting for. Yeah. Where do we stand there?
The original thing was Mr. Vajpayee to please the DMK partners.
Yeah.
He decided to build what is called as a ship channel, that is dig the ground under the water, so that ships can, instead of going around Sri Lanka, go through Park Strait, rather Gulf of Mannar and then Park Strait. And they come from Kanyakumari instead of having to go around.
Right.
Now, that project runs into an obstacle because the Ram Setu which starts from the middle of the ocean, or the waters of one side Gulf of Mannar, the other side Park Strait. Come Rameshwaram, comes to Dhanushkodi, and then from Dhanushkodi, you have Ram Setu going up to Sri Lanka. So the idea that Vajpayee's government and Mr. Jaitley being the shipping minister did was to cut through Ram Setu. And this caused a huge revolt in the RSS and Vishnu Parishad. But they went to the Supreme Court and they argued on religious grounds, and the Supreme Court said, yeah, come on, we are a secular country, don't argue this. They dismissed it. So the Ram Setu was to be blown up by RDX within a week. At that time, Ashok Singhal came to me. I was not in BJP then. I was in Janata Party and very hostile to Mr. Vajpayee. And they told me that you have got to save it, otherwise we Hindus will never be able to lift our face in this country. So I said, there's only 1 week to go. How can I do anything? They said, you have to find some way. Now, you see, I also told him that if Ramchandraji wants me to save Ram Setu, he'll find a way. So give it me. I went and just filed a petition. And it came before a judge who was called Mr. Agarwal, Justice Agarwal, who was, he was not a Hinduite or anything, but he was a tough guy. And my petition was before the Chief Justice Balakrishnan, who would have definitely dismissed it. But as Ramchandraji would have it, on the day of my hearing, he was sent by Sonia Gandhi to Mandela's function in South Africa.
Okay. So Sonia Gandhi inadvertently helped you.
Yeah. So it came to Agarwal.
Okay.
So Agarwal asked me, why are you here? I said, I had a petition. He said, well, I don't see it. I said, my petition was before the Chief Justice. He suddenly gone to South Africa. Now they're all saying there's no Chief Justice. Right. I said, I thought you were the Chief Justice automatically. He said, yes, of course I am Chief Justice. Who told you? Then I said, but my petition is before him, and the Chief Justice has put it that it can await my return.
Right.
He said, what do you mean? I'll have a look. If you're right, then I will hear you. Otherwise, I'm going to fine you.
Right.
So he called the registrar confirmed. So then he said, okay, what's your point? I said, they are about to break the Ram Setu.
Right.
My petition will become infructuous. There will be no Ram Setu to protect. So he asked that Subramanian, who was later on our Solicitor General.
Yeah.
And he asked him, what have you to say? He said, I know nothing. I saw Swamy coming running to court, so I also came running here. And I need protection. He said, but are you going to blow it up? So he said, I don't know. I'll report at 2 o'clock. Right. So at 2 o'clock he came back. Now, poor Subramaniam, he had this problem. The official said, we have decided to disrupt it. And if you say that we have decided, then the Swamy will get a stay order. Right. If you say no and Swamy produces a copy of the file, then we are all in contempt.
Yeah.
So he came and started him, ha, ha, he, ha. And Agarwal got angry. He said, stay granted.
Oh, great.
He asked Subramanian twice, are you going to blow it up or not? We are looking at the overall picture, and development is very important, and so is religion very important, and all that. We'll take an appropriate decision at the appropriate time. He said, I want to hear only one question: are you going to blow it up? And he wouldn't answer that because he would get into trouble. So therefore, I won it. And so, Ashok Singhal and Sudarshan-ji, RSS chief, they're all in raptures. I did nothing. It was only Ramchandraji.
So you have argued that it be granted archaeological.
No. Yes. You see, then I argued then there was a hearing for 3 years.
Yes.
In which I argued that this, I didn't argue on religious grounds.
That's very interesting, because on Ram Janmabhoomi you cited religion.
Yes, it was.
That's quite fascinating.
Yeah. Here I couldn't, because the Supreme Court had already rejected a petition on religious grounds.
Right. Right.
So I can't raise the same thing again.
Right.
So I argued that, you see, the idea is that you don't have to go around Sri Lanka. I'll show you another way you can go without going around Sri Lanka. That is, put a railway line from Kanyakumari to Chennai.
Right.
And it's cheaper by 600. It's only cost 600 crores. This costs 3,500 crores.
Right.
So why waste resources? So on that basis, they decide to hear it.
Okay.
The only religious point came when one of the judges said, Dr. Swamy, does anyone will go to the middle of the ocean to worship? Why are you caricaturing this?
Right.
I said, Your Lordship, every morning I worship the Lord Surya.
Yeah.
But I don't go to the sun and come back every day. And he said, okay, no point.
Right. So
I
you
won the case.
argue that to be given
Now I want it to be declared a national
national monument.
heritage monument. And there's a criteria for it in the act. There is an act, archaeological act.
Yeah, of course.
There's a criteria. It fits that criteria.
Right.
It's more than 100 years old.
Yeah.
It has been testified by.
And it's not a live religious monument.
Yeah,
and they don't allow that.
It is a monument. It is a heritage because it is part of the Ramayana and
Right.
so on. But Modi is sitting on the file for the last 5 years. And so I have to go to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court, before the corona, told me, come after 3 months, we'll hear you. Right now, our agenda is too heavy, so we won't be able to give you time. But then the corona came. So now I've again asked to be taken online. And I'll win it. But I just don't understand this obstinacy of Modi. He just won't do it. The cultural minister has recommended.
Right. What do you think is stopping Mr. Modi?
He thinks I'll get the credit.
It's all right. You've got the credit for the, no matter who conducts the Bhumi Pujan, we all know about Ram Janmabhoomi.
Yeah, same thing. Ram Mandir. Amit Shah himself told me, you get out of this case.
Right.
I said, why? He said, you're BJP. I said, so what? It is I who brought the hearing. Otherwise, 7 years, there was no hearing.
Right.
I brought in this fundamental right, faith and all that.
Right.
And that's how we are going to win the case.
Right.
But they didn't want me at all after they saw that I was going to win the case. So anyway, we won the case, and but he wouldn't invite me for the.
That's all right. We can do without that. Dr. Swamy, thank you so much as always for telling us so much about what goes on behind the scenes, and really how policy is made, and how sometimes just simple petty jealousies can ruin a nation's future. It's quite sad. But I recommend to all that they read Himalayan Challenge, India, China, and the Quest for Peace. It's quite a remarkable book, a slim book, but a remarkable book on really how to deal with our most fearsome neighbor. Thank you so much, Dr. Swamy, as always.
Pleasure talking to you.